All right, you are going to be needing the next page in your writing packet, elaborating with precise details T-chart. You will notice that I have two of my points filled out already. And last week, Thursday and Friday, we spent time in class and at home finding two sources, whether they were online or a book, that we can include that information or some outside information into our paper. And you will notice that I included information from the ASPCA website and also the American Kennel Club's website, which in class Thursday and Friday of last week, I showed you kind of the route that I took in order to get that information. So what I did in this side of the chart, the facts chart here, I wrote down the sentence in my paper that I've already wrote that I included the name of that source in. So these are the actual facts that I'm taking from these sources, okay? And the rest of the sentences in that same paragraph after these two sentences also contain some of that information from the ASPCA website and the American Kennel Club's website. However, now that I have kind of an idea of how I'm going to include it in my paper, because this is what I actually wrote, I'm noticing that it's pretty blah, pretty boring. It's not necessarily interesting for the reader to read because they're going to go, all right, cool, from the ASPCA website, your dog's going to need a collar, a leash, take her outside. So what? So let's work on ways that we can add some detail or maybe some description to make this a little more exciting. Now, from the ASPCA website, your dog is going to need a collar and a leash to take her outside. I'm kind of thinking one way I could add some more interesting detail to this is by saying, from the ASPCA website, your dog is going to need a collar and a leash to take her outside to go to the bathroom and for walks. So I'm kind of adding detail or description on what is actually going on in this, or I'm kind of thinking too, if you were in class Thursday and Friday, you remember me saying what this organization does. They are the ones that are in charge of the really sad dog commercials on TV where they're abandoned and abused. So this foundation works with rescuing dogs. I could maybe add in something about, those sad commercials. I'm gonna abbreviate here. Those sad commercials on TV that show abandoned dogs. Okay, and I could start out by saying that in my topic sentence, and I could say, those sad commercials on TV that show abandoned dogs. The ASPCA is, how could I do that? The ASPCA, maybe I'll write it down here. The ASPCA is in charge of those advertisements since they bring awareness on proper ways to take care of a dog. Okay, now I know this is kind of all a mess here, but it's kind of what the editing and the writing process is. So here's how I would add in this information here, not just saying from the ASPCA website. Follow along with me. Those sad commercials on TV that show abandoned dogs? The ASPCA is in charge of those advertisements since they bring awareness to proper ways to take care of a dog. I added this part in here because that is what their main mission is, but also to take care of a dog is kind of what I'm talking about up here with needing a collar and a leash to go to the bathroom and go for walks, because these are two things that take care of a dog, and these things are equipment that help you take care of a dog. So that's kind of why I transitioned or I led into it with that. Okay, let me read through it again. You know those sad commercials on TV that show abandoned dogs? The ASPCA is in charge of those advertisements since they bring awareness to proper ways to take care of a dog. From the ASPCA website, your dog is going to need a collar and a leash to take her outside, to go to the bathroom, and for walks. So, because of all these little additions here that I added in, it's a little bit more interesting, as these interesting details side of the chart is leading on to. It's a little more interesting to read, and it's not just blah, boringly stating my site or my source inside and that information I got from that source in my paper. Okay, so now I would go on and do the same process with this. That is what your job is going to be today. Now, you may not be able to do all of this yet, and you may be changing this as you go along, and that's totally fine. What I'd like you to do is work on stating your 2 interesting facts from your sources on this side of the T-chart, and then as you are writing your paper and including more of that information in your paper, work on ways that you can add it or make it more interesting for your reader and kind of tie in different parts and descriptions and details in order to make it, like I said, more interesting for your reader. Okay, thank you.